Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Chronicles of the Range Monkey. I am Stephanie Widener, the CEO here at Active Self Protection, and I am here with my beautiful daughter, Natalie, better known
Hi.
to this community as the Range Monkey. Last week, we talked a little bit about the Range Monkey origin story, where you came from, and the genesis of what you're doing now. And we started talking about where you're going to go in the future. And we decided maybe that was best as its own conversation. So let's take a minute. Let's talk about where the Range Monkey's going.
This is not a paid endorsement, but I am a brand ambassador for Heckler and Koch for a reason. HK firearms are incredibly high quality, and when it's time to step up out of the entry tier, they're the only ones I recommend. You carry a gun just in case. Shouldn't it be an HK just in case?
All right, Natalie, thanks for taking some time to be with me in the middle of
Yeah.
a good old fashioned Midwestern snow flurry that's keeping us from doing some shooting this week. And we were talking about kind of the origin story of the range monkey, and we were joking about whether that's going to arc towards being the hero of the villain of this story or the villain of this story. We'll find out. But we at
Yeah.
least got the origin story in and how you became the range monkey and the lessons you
Yeah.
learned from that. If anybody wants to watch that, that was last week's range monkey video. At the end of that, I asked you, where's the range monkey going? And you started talking about the Active Self Protection Instructor Development Program. And that is a program where it's an instructor certification course where firearms instructors join and they go through these small groups and cohorts. It's a 6-month program. Most of it takes place with distance learning, with weekly meetings online. There are papers that are written, there are books that are read,
Yeah.
there are
It's a
lots of
lot of fun.
meetings, lots of teaching, and we just got done with the one in-person portion, which is 3 days at the range in South Dakota. And I thought we could talk a little bit about that and why you see yourself, why that's part of the range monkey future. So why don't you tell me a little bit about what was your experience with so far with the instructor certification program?
Yeah. It's been not at all what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a lot more about the secret ins and outs that instructors teach their students.
Mhm.
Kind of, like I was like, okay, it's 6 months of instructor development. So by the end of it, I better be able to teach anybody how to shoot through a bullseye.
Mhm.
But it very much surprised me because it was actually character development. I
Mm.
feel like more than anything. At least the in-person weekend. We only had 3 days together, and during that time, we spent a lot of it on the range, but we spent a lot of it just teaching each other what we know and uh, helping each other realize the perception that we give off while we're instructing. For example, I've always thought that I stumble over my words a little bit too much while I'm instructing. Maybe I get a little bit too into my own head. And another block I have is I tend to try to find the right terminology. But I think if I have a good way to explain something, then I can go off the track a little bit. I don't have to follow a script to teach somebody how to shoot through a bullseye. I can figure out how to build my own curriculum and get my students to their end goal. And the whole weekend it kind of taught me what instructing would actually look like.
Mhm.
Um, because I've gone to a lot of classes as a student. I know what good instructors should look like. But I don't have any experience actually instructing. I have experience coaching, but I feel like there's a pretty distinct difference. And all of the other students in the cohort have been really supportive and encouraging. And it's a very, very good team to be going through this with. Uh, um, it was interesting to only had known them a month over about, 4 or 5, Zoom meetings, and then getting to meet them in person, and they're obviously very similar to who I thought they would be, but there's just so much more of them, and they're all amazing.
Mhm.
Um, so it was just really nice to be able to connect with, other people like me who, just would like to learn more about what we're doing.
Right. Well, again, with our instructor certification program, there's several programs out there where instructors can develop, and they focus a lot on shooting. And we felt that there wasn't a lot of focus on adult learning and how to run a business ethically and professionally, and we talk about the marketing pieces of it and getting to know your students. The shooting, you proved that before you even get accepted into the program, so we didn't need to focus a lot on that. Everyone in there was already a high-end shooter.
Yeah.
So that was fun. And yeah, it was interesting from your experience level, because you've done more one-on-one coaching at the range that you work at, and you have run a few big groups. But I really wouldn't call it like a class that you're running, and you've never had that you've ran, and you've never had to develop a curriculum more than run
Yeah.
through drills and that sort of thing as part of like competitions. So one of the things that I really loved, and I think everyone appreciated, was seeing someone with your little level of experience teaching people, coming in and teaching, and watching you take some of the creative risks, for lack of a better word. I didn't know you were talking about the rhythm with which someone would shoot at one point, and trying to say that it might be helpful to figure out what that cadence is, the word that we would generally call that, what the cadence you would need to get all your shots done in a specific time. And I didn't know if you didn't know what that word was, because again, you've got a reasonably limited experience in teaching other students, or if you decided to call it something else and you went with the terminology heartbeat. And you went with that whole thing, which I loved, talking about it from a tactile perspective, feeling the rhythm that you wanted to shoot at, talking about the red dot beeping out an EKG that you could kind of visually
Mhm.
watch in your red dot window. You could kind of hear that, people could imagine all of that. So all these different sensory ways to talk about shooting to a specific rhythm to help you understand what you needed to do to accomplish the task. And it just was such a good reminder to me that as we bring people into this, um, if they, especially newer people, we can learn so much from their perspective, because someone like me might feel like I have to prove to the rest of the group that I know how to teach this. I know the terms. I know
Mhm.
what has to happen, and I may sound very professional. And that's part of my demeanor, so that's part of what I do anyway. Whereas you have a very, very different demeanor, and just watching you own that and coming in and teaching in a way that made sense with you, and being playful with that and experimenting with that, it was really joyful for me to see that, because
Yeah.
I think that's how the industry doesn't remain stagnant, and how we continue to bring people in, rather than having these secret coded words like cadence that might not mean anything to someone that wasn't in sort of a musically related education path or something, or already in the industry. What you said kind of had a broader message and appeal. And I think that's an important lesson for all of us as we're communicating to people either newer in the industry or just outside of it.
Yeah. Yeah, creative risks are kind of my thing, not gonna brag. Um, yeah, well, like we kind of touched on in the last video, in my origin story, it's a lot of bonding with my family members on the range and kind of having that fun competitiveness. And every time I'm teaching or coaching, I just kind of still have that, okay, we're all just kind of a fun family, we're all just kind of having a fun family bonding time. And so um why not make it, oh, I'm not sure what the word I'm looking for is, but that dialogue, the dialogue that you choose is important. Words mean things. And if you're going to bring a newer shooter on for a range date, then you should probably use words that they are that they, I'm losing all my words today.
Right, but rather than having like that
That
gatekeeping,
they can recognize.
yeah, so that
Yeah.
you show how smart you are because you know all the proper terminology, but it kind of limits their ability to interact. I think it takes real
Yeah.
skill and confidence to not have to show you're the smartest person in the room on the range, and speak in terms that are more accessible.
Yeah. Um yeah, cuz I mean I can take, I can take my nephew Malcolm once he gets a little bit older out onto the range, and I can tell him, "Okay, you have 10 seconds for 10 shots and you're at 10 yards, and you just got to know your cadence, that it's just like that." He's never heard the word cadence in this dialogue before. So while he's shooting, he's going to forget and he's not going to follow along to the cadence. he'll be like, oh yeah, I was focusing and I was paying attention, but it's a new word. If you're going to bring somebody to the range for the first time, then I think you should use a word that's accessible to them, like you said. And the heartbeat metaphor, I like it for so many different reasons. I've been using that for so long. And so now it kind of feels good that it's kind of getting some light. Um, One part I really like about it is that when you think of a heartbeat, boom, 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 boom. And I think it represents the first, the shot, boom, and then finding your sights. You have to find your sights before you get the next shot. So I think it just helps me not overcorrect. It helps me stay on beat. And, sometimes heartbeats are a little bit irregular, but you can usually get back on the beat if you're thinking about it like that.
Can explore it even to, a bigger degree and say that from a self-defense perspective, if what you need to shoot is very far away, maybe your heart is going slower because it's not quite so high stakes because it's at 20 yards or something.
Yeah.
However, if you're, 3 yards away, you can move to a quicker, your heartbeat's going to be going quicker because it's very close and therefore very high
Yeah.
stress. So the idea of this changing rhythm and changing needs for shooting is an interesting one to play around with. And
Yeah.
I think it's really fun to be in a group like the Instructor Certification, kind of a small group that sticks together for 6 months where you can explore these ideas. Is that something that, who would you recommend this program for? Like, who do you think it would be someone that it would be helpful for? Because we have some very experienced people in there, but you have very limited experience as an instructor.
Right. Um, well, so far in this first month, the cohort has taught me um just how to especially just in this first book, it's taught me how to meet students where they're at. And so I think anybody that's teaching anything could take this class and read these books and listen to the very qualified instructors, Chris Bean and Carrie Dudenhofer. Listen to what they have to say. I have learned so much about how to interact with students, and the ethics that a firearms instructor should have, and so many different aspects about it that I don't think I've ever heard any other instructors talking about. And so it has the ASP instructor cohort will get you to look at instructing from every single angle, and
Mhm.
angles that you didn't even know existed. And so I think it's very beneficial to just about anybody. I got to sit next to a lady, I won't name names or anything, but I got to sit next to a lady who is a counselor. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever, that I got to sit next to her while she took it, because she's also, she's not as experienced with teaching and running a line. That's not really her background. And so to just be able to sit and relate to somebody, it was just so special. So if she's watching right now, thank you for sitting next to me. So it's not just for firearms instructors, although that is the main chunk that you'll get. But I think it's just really helpful to learn how other people learn, and learn how other people's ways will work. I went in there kind of thinking, okay, I'm going to learn how to be an instructor. And I came out of the 3-day weekend thinking, okay, there's a lot of different kinds of instructors and everybody fits together like puzzle pieces, and we have so much good material to share. And so I should find what I'm passionate about and teach it. So
Mhm.
I'm not quite sure what the future has in store for me, but I am very excited to find exactly what I'm passionate about in the firearms community and be teaching that. Because I mean, so far, my big passion in the firearms community is getting to go spend time on the range with my family and friends. Um, I would like to be teaching something, though. I do think that I have a great point of view to give people, like newer shooters. I feel like I'm very good at translating that terminology in easier, digestible ways. So I do have a place here, and I'm excited to find out where it is. But right now, I'm just super excited to be finishing this cohort. So
Very cool. Well, Natalie, thanks for taking some time and talking with us. And hopefully by the time everybody joins us again next week, weather will have cleared for us here. But thanks for sharing a little bit about where you're at and what you've been learning over the last couple of years. I really appreciate it.
of course, yeah.